You know, people love to call fencing physical chess, but that's really only half the story. Sure, you need the athleticism, you need the strategy, but the real fight, the one that decides the bout, that happens right between your ears. So in this explainer, we're going to go way beyond footwork and blade work. We're breaking down the mental game of fencing, how you can get a handle on that frustration, find your focus, and really master the psychology of the strip.
So let me start by asking you something. When you're facing a big decision, what's your go-to move? Are you the type to map out every single possibility, weigh every pro and con? Or do you just trust your gut and go for it? Seriously, think about it for a second, because your answer says a whole lot about you.
And that's exactly why your answer matters so much. This quote from the legend Aldo Nadi just nails it. He believed the fencing strip is basically a giant mirror. It shows who you are, deep down. The way you handle that pressure, the way you make those split-second calls, it reveals your personality for everyone to see.
Okay, so let's dive right into that. The very first step to getting a grip on your mental game is to understand who you are and how that shows up when you're holding a weapon.
You know, most people kind of fall into one of two camps. First, you've got the cautious, the thoughtful fencer. They analyze everything, they're always looking for that perfect, risk-free opening. And then, you've got the action-oriented, the impulsive fencer. They'd rather just act, force the action, and create chances that way. Now, neither one is better than the other, but both have to learn to adapt. The cautious fencer has to learn to be aggressive, and the impulsive fencer, well, they've got to find some patience.
And this is where it gets really interesting. It's this thing called the rubber band effect. See, you can train all you want, you can practice being more balanced, but when the pressure is on, we're talking the final seconds of a 14-14 bout, when that frustration and adrenaline are just screaming in your head, you're going to snap right back to whatever's natural for you. And a good opponent? Oh, they know this. They'll poke you, they'll prod you, they'll push you right to that breaking point where that rubber band just snaps. And suddenly, your fine motor skills are gone, and a total psychological meltdown is just one touch away.
And that meltdown? It often looks like a really vicious cycle. So let's talk about how to spot and, more importantly, how to escape that dreaded downward spiral. The whole thing is fueled by one thing, the fear of failure.
So here's how it plays out. It always starts with these unrealistic expectations. All the I should be winning, I should be better stuff you put on yourself. When you don't hit those marks, boom, in comes the frustration and anger. You start telling yourself to just try harder, but you don't have a real plan, so that just leads to more failure. And then the cycle starts all over again. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy of defeat.
And that brings us to the hard truth, right? The whole winning is everything mindset, it's just not sustainable. It takes years to get good at fencing. If the only way you can feel successful is by winning, you are setting yourself up for an absolute world of disappointment and eventually burnout. You just can't keep that up when it feels like you're failing all the time.
So, if that's the problem, how do you actually break the cycle? Well, it all begins with learning to manage your emotional state. Let's talk about finding that sweet spot, that performance zone where you can really do your best work.
Okay, so think about your performance being tied to your level of emotional arousal, just like this chart shows. If your arousal is too low, you're going to feel slow, sluggish, unfocused. But if it's way too high, you get frantic, tense, and your technique just completely falls apart. Peak performance lives right there in the middle, that perfect zone where you're energized, you're alert, but you're still calm and in control.
A really good way to think about this is the tire pressure analogy. You got to ask yourself, right now, are you overinflated? Too anxious, too tense? Then you need to let some air out. Take some deep, calming breaths, do some stretches. Or are you underinflated, feeling flat, unmotivated? You got to pump yourself up, run in place, use some energizing imagery, or even just squeeze the grip of your weapon really fast to build that intensity.
All right, so once you can start managing your arousal levels, the next big leap is a massive shift in your strategy. It's about redefining what success even looks like by focusing on the process, not just the win-loss column.
See, real lasting progress in fencing means you have to grow across all four of these areas. You need your physical conditioning, your mental prep, your technical skills, and your tactical sense. And they're all connected. You can't just work on one and ignore the others. So the goals you set for yourself have to reflect that kind of balance.
And that leads to this brilliant idea. Your brain can't write checks that your body can't honor. Setting a goal like, I'm going to win this bout, is actually a pretty bad idea because guess what? You don't control your opponent. Instead, you need to set performance goals, things that are 100% within your control. Things like improving your indicators over a season, or successfully pulling off a specific parry repost, or even just making sure you stay focused between every single touch.
All right, let's pull all this together and get really practical. Let's talk about the actual tools you can put in your mental toolbox to handle that stress and perform your best no matter what the situation is.
Now, this pyramid of anxiety shows you exactly why these tools are so critical. As the stakes get higher, from a friendly bout in practice all the way to the Olympic finals, the anxiety shoots up. And here's the key. You have to master the mental game at each level before you can even think about succeeding at the next one. If you're falling apart at a local club tournament, there's just no way you're going to be able to perform at nationals.
So these are the 5 core skills you need to be working on. First, relaxation and activation. That's how you manage your arousal. Second, concentration, so you can stay locked in on right now. Third, self-talk, to get that inner critic under control. Fourth is imagery, to see yourself succeeding before you even step on the strip. And last, performance routines, to give you a sense of calm and consistency, no matter how high the pressure gets.
Let's zero in on self-talk for a second, because it is unbelievably powerful. This is that little voice inside your head that's going all day long. For a lot of athletes, that voice is just harsh, it's critical, and that leads directly back to that self-fulfilling prophecy we talked about. If you're constantly telling yourself you're going to mess up, you are literally making it more likely that you will.
So the trick is to consciously reframe that thinking. The moment you catch yourself thinking, I always lose to this person, you have to stop, and you replace it. Replace it with something constructive, like, okay, I'm going to stay calm, I'm going to be patient, and I'm going to look for my opportunity. You're literally changing the conversation in your head from one about defeat to one about solving a problem.
And really, that's the ultimate mindset shift you can make. Your opponent isn't some enemy who's out to beat you. They're an obstacle you need to figure out. A bout isn't a life-or-death battle. It's just a series of puzzles, and your only job is to focus on solving the puzzle that's right in front of you. Just that one simple change takes so much pressure off and makes your focus razor sharp.
To wrap this all up, I think the great philosopher, Yogi Berra, probably said it best. Okay, so the math might be a little off, but the feeling is 100% right. Your physical game is what gets you to the strip, but it's your mental game that decides who walks away the winner.
So I'll just leave you with this question. Now that you have this framework, now that you have these tools, what's the very first puzzle that you need to solve in your own mental game? Because whether that's changing your self-talk or just setting better goals, your path to getting better starts with that answer.